Good evening, Internet. This is CFS Eurovision here for the anti-penultimate time as CFS Eurovision for the time being. Yes, the channel will be taking a different direction once this and the next two videos are released, due to the fact that I'm not covering the main contest in 2026. But before we rebrand, it is time to look back on what has been a truly incredible and interesting Eurovision National Final season. Back in a month I can't remember and can't be bothered to go back and check, I released a video detailing my advice for each country for Eurovision 2026, back when I still thought I'd be watching the main contest. Now, we've had national finals in a grand total of 25 countries, 24 of which we covered because we're not looking at that one. It's time now to look back and see whether or not the advice was followed, and if that national final was better or worse for that. Albania. This system is good. Keep it. Did they do this? Objectively, the answer is yes. The artistic style of the final was the same, just changed enough to reflect the passing of a year between iterations. Nothing changed in terms of results system either. Is the national final better or worse for that? I don't think that's entirely a question that can apply to this advice, and in particular this national final. Shkodra Elektronika got Albania's second best ever result in 2025, so there's no way we can hold the national final to the same standard. It would be unfair. There was still a similar level of quality more broadly, and though Alice will not have the same hype as Shkodra, Albania is still in a position to go forward and be consistent qualifiers in the future. Austria. Recognise where the talent is when you host. Did they do this? Well, the caveat here is that I didn't expect them to hold a national final this year. They previously hadn't done one in the last decade, and unfortunately, looking at the standard of their national final, it was easy to see why. Now, obviously, in terms of measuring whether or not they did this, one has to wait until after the contest, which obviously I'm not covering, so it's very difficult to say. They have revealed the hosts as none of the people I mentioned in that video. I think I mentioned in all Conchita, JJ, Philip Hansa, who has done the jury spokesperson job for years, and Andy Knoll, who has been the commentator for years. And they didn't go with any of those, and I said in that video and reiterate here that when they hosted in 2015, it wasn't very good. 3 robots and Conchita, who was relegated to a green room duties for some reason. Hopefully they do listen and learn this time. I can't ask the question about was the national final better or worse because it didn't happen previously. Bulgaria, returning country, no advice given. Croatia. Don't let this result make you afraid to be bold again. Did they do this? Okay, so a bit of background here is that Marko Bosniak with Poison Cake was crazy. It was over the top, and it came after in 2024 Baby Lasagna's Rim Tim Taggy Dim, which was originally not even in their national final lineup. He was a reserve and not even the top reserve. I was worried that because of Marko Bosniak's poor results, that Croatia would avoid the crazy, and that Dora would become a slog and therefore not many options for Eurovision. I'm happy to say my worries were wrong, and they did let crazy entries into Dora. It was a good variety, I can't fault Croatia for that, even if they didn't send something quite as chaotic. Lelek is a great act though, so well done there. Was the national final better or worse? In the sense that I was advocating no change, I can't say it was better, but it certainly wasn't any worse. And it would have been worse had they done the opposite of what I said. Denmark. Look at Croatia and copy them. Did they do this? My main point here was the fact that Croatia had stepped up its national final through the Baby Lasagna influence, whereas Denmark in recent years had entirely regressed and wasn't really allowing many decent songs into the national final, at least not things that we haven't heard before. This year that did change and the quality had improved. I don't think necessarily they've modelled that off Croatia, but there was more of a native language element, more variety as well. It was much better, and now they have a chance at winning the main contest according to odds and other factors. Was the national final better or worse? I'd say much better. Night and day difference. They need to go on and keep this up, make it more consistent quality. That's the most important thing for now. But we can say that this is 100% a better national final than it was a year ago. Estonia. Keep doing what you're doing. Did they do this? Well, yes and no. The production quality at Estee Lauder is very much getting there. And the trend is that things are going well for Estonia at Eurovision. However, they sent Vanilla Ninja, so all of that is slightly tarnished this year. Overall, is the quality still there? Yes, absolutely it is. They just chose wrong. Was the national final better or worse? The quality overall is up, but the quality of the winning entry is down. That's the dilemma that we have here. Finland. Same to you. This was placed just after Estonia in that video, so the keep doing what you're doing is what applies here. Did they do this? Yes, they very much did. And now this national final, Yhden musiikin kilpailu, is the strongest national final out there. Out of any country, it's this one. It's Finland. They are the current favourites to win the main contest, and for good reason. That entry is ready to go, and they are ready to host in 2027. Is the national final better or worse? I'd say even better than last year. There's very little room for improvement because Finland is just that good now. But it's somehow managed to be even better. This is the best, no doubt. Germany. Be careful, learn, but don't repeat. What I meant by this was essentially that Abor and Tina's good result in 2025 was a facade for a national final that was bafflingly atrocious in its system, and that it was pure luck that the song that won was actually any good at all. The problem with that system was that the acts would first audition performing a cover song, and then the top few would go through, then they perform their actual song, and the jury would decide the top 5, I think it was. Then the public would have their say among that top 5. Stop eliminating the acts before giving the public a vote, let alone eliminating acts before they've performed their own song. This is not the X Factor. Did they follow my advice? Well, they did change their national final. They didn't really improve it at all, though. It was terrible. The jury selected the top 3, and then it went to public vote this time. So, even less democratic, and an even bigger problem. The entry that was selected will do much worse this year as a result, because it is worse. Was the national final better or worse? I can confidently say it was worse. The variety of acts was minimal, as was the quality. Both were much better last year. This was awful. Greece. You know better than me on this one. They really do. Basically, the premise of this was that I wasn't a massive fan of Klavdia, and I was genuinely baffled when it not only qualified, but finished 6th in the final. So clearly Greece was doing things that I didn't understand, but were clearly working for them. Did they follow my advice? Absolutely they did. They did their own thing again this year. They expanded their national selection. It now has semi-finals, as there are so many more acts to deal with. The result is that they selected a song that all indications say genuinely has a chance to win the whole contest. They know what they're doing, and it's not for me to tell them otherwise. Was the national final better or worse? Better overall. I do have some concerns that the increase in number of entries perhaps had the opposite effect on level of quality, like it was letting in songs that they would have rejected last year. But I don't think that affected things too much at the top of the results. They clearly selected a song that was every bit as good as last year, and possibly even better. Just a quick interlude to say that you aren't subscribed, and I know you aren't. So if you're enjoying this video, hit that subscribe button underneath this video. It's free with no catch, and you get notified every time I upload a video, so you won't miss a thing. So click it now. Thank you. Back to the video. Italy. Get a less misogynistic jury for Sanremo. In Sanremo of 2025, the top 5 were all men, despite the overwhelming favourite in wider public perception being a woman, Georgia. When Georgia was announced as 6th, with the super final top 5 all being men, the crowd at Sanremo became very vicious indeed. I don't think I should get on their bad side. So for the record, Sanremo is not a national final and has more history than Eurovision itself. Did they follow my advice? Well, on the most objective measure, which in this case is number of female superfinal entries, you could say yes. As this year there was not just one, but 2 female artists in the top 5. Dittanella Piaggia and Arissa. Neither of them won, but crucially that was down to public vote. Dittanella Piaggia won with both radio and press juries. It was the public that dropped her to 3rd. Was the national final better or worse for following that advice? I would say, relating to the results, it was better, as that's basically what the advice I gave related to. But I would also say that the overall quality this year was slightly higher than last year. I remember feeling like it was a drop from 2024 to 2025, but I don't get that same feeling this year, and that will hopefully only continue to be the case as female artists feel more comfortable knowing they actually have a chance going forward. Latvia. Same as Iceland, keep the variety. Well, Latvia. When I said keep the variety, I meant I was impressed then. This year blew that out of the water. Did they follow my advice? Yes, they did. There really was something for everyone in Supernova this year. Whether you wanted to go raving at the Taj Mahal, mesmerised by the likes of Elpo or Kautkaili, rocking with Miks Galvanovskis and his wonderful moustache, or moved by the ballad of Atvara. Was the national final better or worse? Better, but also in terms of quality. This was the best Supernova I can remember. Admittedly, I've not been following national finals for very long at all. I started in 2023 with national finals, but this is certainly the best Supernova in terms of quality of the entries since then. Well done, Latvia. Your qualification streak deserves to continue. Lithuania. Slight opposite. Balance the variety with more quality. The reason I said this was that the 40-song format of Eurovisia.lt can sometimes feel like a real drag, with 6 weeks of shows, loads to get through, wildcard rounds, etc. And while the variety of songs was clearly there in 2025, the quality sometimes wasn't. Did they take my advice? No, I can't say they did. It seemed very similar to the past couple of years, where there was varying quality depending on which heat you were watching. There was one standout heat, and then everything else wasn't particularly interesting. Lion Seeker, as I now know how to pronounce it, and I don't have to re-edit in the right one, is a very interesting act, though, who may well do well at the main contest. Was the national final better or worse? It was the same, really. As I said, they didn't take my advice, and it didn't really change. Luxembourg. For goodness sake, change that format. The format in Luxembourg Song Contest 2025 was that 7 songs competed, and 50-50 international jury and televote system decided the winner. My advice was more related to the selection process before we get to the national final itself. There was a real quality issue here that seems uncharacteristic of a country with 5 Eurovision wins, that's also one of the newest returnees to the main contest. Did they follow my advice? Unfortunately, they followed it to the letter and not actually what I meant. I should have been clearer here, because what they did was add a super final where the top 3 would go through, and then the 50-50 system would happen again. This is a worse format anyway. As I previously stated, my view is that a super final that has the same voting system as the main final is pointless. Was the national final better or worse? I can't say it changed in terms of quality year on year. It's very much the same level, some interest, but it still lacks something in comparison to other finals. Needs more quality of song. Malta. Diva is down. This was in response to the omni-shambles that was Miriana Conte's result in Eurovision 2025. For those who don't remember, she won MESC 2025 with her song Cant, which means singing in Maltese. However, there was deliberate wordplay with a well-known phrase that involves an offensive word beginning with C that I'm probably not allowed to say here. As a result, she was forced to remove that word from the song for the Eurovision stage, meaning her song title was altered and instead was titled Serving. This was, however, fairly reluctant, and the staging was, in my opinion, obnoxiously filled with visual innuendos, including depictions of literal anal regions on the LED screen in the background. This was off-putting for many viewers on social media, and unsurprisingly, it came away with a measly 8 points in the televote. Malta is known for sending divas like Conte to the contest. Destiny Chukwunyere, who won Junior Eurovision in 2015 and represented Malta in the main contest in 2020 and 2021, can be said to fit in with that category as well. And it usually does well for them. It was Malta's first qualification since Destiny last year, in fairness, so it's easy to see why. But my advice for this year was to maybe tone it down a little bit and send something that isn't going to be actively off-putting, not that either song in itself was. Did they do this? Yes, Aiden isn't actively off-putting in the slightest, and even though I personally don't like the song, I can't say they didn't follow my advice, and it may well pay off for them. Was the national final better or worse? In terms of quality, I'd actually say it was better, but that had nothing to do with the advice I gave, but there certainly were a large amount of songs in that national final that I could have seen at the main contest. Moldova, returning country, no advice given. Montenegro. Try again. This wasn't your fault. Montenegro had just about the situation that exemplifies Murphy's Law on their return to Eurovision in 2025. They had a national final which selected an interesting and innovative entry, Neo Noyan with Clickbait, which it turned out they had performed before the 1st of September mark, where songs have to be released after, as per the rules of the main contest. These rules have been relaxed before, but Neo Noyan decided to pull out before the EBU made any decision. Their replacement was second-place entry Nina Zizic with Dobrodošli, meaning welcome. It was a typical Balkan ballad, nowhere near as interesting as Neo Noyan to begin with, and as such, its qualification chances shot down. It still had a slight chance of qualifying by the time the main event came around, however, as it was in a semi-final with a fairly open competition. Unfortunately, Nina had a major voice crack on one of the choruses, which ruined her chances of qualification. None of this was the fault of RTCG, so my advice was to keep at it and see what happens this year. Did they take my advice? Yes, in the sense that my advice was to change nothing. They changed nothing. Montesson came and went, nothing had changed, and as it stands, the winner is still going to Eurovision. Was the national final better or worse? I think in terms of quality, it was better. Again, my advice had nothing to do with it, but it went well for them this time. Norway. Go back. Norway's national final Melody Grand Prix was downsized in 2025, with previously used semi-finals being abolished, and instead we got one 10-song national final. The quality was dreadful, which only serves to prove the point that the public making the decision of what song goes to the final of MGP were better at making that decision than NRK producers were. Did they listen? No. And in fact, one of the original 10 pulled out, meaning we ended up with 9 this year. There is another factor here, which is that the act pulled out, Ylvis, yes, that Ylvis, of What Does the Fox Say fame, pulled out because of Israel's participation in Eurovision. It is likely that other artists who would otherwise have tried didn't for the same reason. The boycott has clearly been more effective in Norway than in other countries, and that has had a knock-on effect on MGP. Was the national final better or worse? I can say worse as a result of this situation. Poland. Do it again. Oh dear. Poland's national final in 2025 was a triumphant success after the political situation at TVP subsided following the election of Donald Tusk as Poland's Prime Minister. Or so we thought. Unfortunately, this year the quality has returned to the dregs of the past. Did they follow my advice? No. Very clearly they did not do the same thing again. Was the national final better or worse? Worse. Much, much worse. Portugal. Another one that knows better than I do. My opinion differs the most from a national finals audience the most consistently with Portugal. And yet, Portugal has a 5-year qualification streak, stretching back to 2021. Clearly they know what they're doing a lot better than I do. Did they take my advice? Yeah, I guess you could say they did, because they did exactly the same as they have been doing. Was the national final better or worse? I think the quality was about the same as usual. What was interesting here was that 13 of the 16 acts in Festival de Canção said they would not go to Eurovision if they won in protest at Israel's participation. Portugal being another country where the boycott has been more effective. 2 said they would go, and 1 hadn't confirmed either way. The winner said they'd go, luckily. It's interesting that they allowed these people to compete freely and fairly against each other with no favouritism, and though they were selecting an entry for Eurovision, they respected the wills of each contestant. A lot to learn for many of us here, I think. Portugal gets a lot of credit for that here. Well done. Romania, returning country, no advice given. San Marino. I guess that format works as well. This was relating to the change between Una Voce per San Marino and San Marino Song Contest. I was just hoping they'd continue the format into 2026. Did they do this? Yes. Was the national final better or worse? Maybe slightly worse. The issue as I see it is it's now becoming a bit of a haven for artists who have failed to send songs to other, better national finals. And as such, the quality is consistently lower than the other national finals because you're accepting their rejects. Serbia. Bigger fish to fry, but sort your discrepancies out. The political situation in Serbia, and particularly relating to RTS, is still ongoing from last year. That was obvious to anyone who was following it last year. That's why I basically gave them a free pass on this one. We'll be there when you're in a position to actually improve the show. Did they follow my advice to sort the discrepancies out? Yes and no. In 2025, the reason I gave this advice was that the results of Pesma za Eurovision were incredibly fragmented, with the song that one side of the 50-50 jury televote split gave the full 12 points, got 0 from the other. It was that divided. This led to Prince winning despite finishing 2nd in the jury vote and 3rd with the public. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, according to the rules, but it does increase the likelihood of a different song in the national final having probably done better at the main contest. In 2026, the winner received the full 24 points, so I can't say there's a discrepancy there. However, the song in 2nd was 2nd with the jury, but 5th with the televote. Conversely, the song in 2nd with the televote came 7th with the jury. So there's still a discrepancy there that's difficult to accept and difficult to feel accurate. Was the national final better or worse? Well, there was no way the show last year could possibly be even worse this time. Last year there were no live interval acts, just footage of previous ones because they'd all boycotted the show due to the political situation. It's very difficult to get worse than that. So, all things considered, everything went smoothly. At least this time I can say it was better. But hopefully Vucic gets booted out soon for more reasons than just this one. Spain. Stop it. Okay, this one will take some explaining. So what I meant by this was that there is an idea in Spain that, in my opinion, was very strange at the time, and that was about Benidorm Fest in general. An idea that it had become a bigger thing than just a Eurovision national selection for them, and that Spain was voting for what it wanted and not what the rest of Europe would appreciate and vote for. This logic was flawed at the time because why would you get so wound up over Chanel's result at the main contest if Benidorm Fest was bigger? She won that, so the main contest doesn't matter, surely. Anyway, Spain leaving Eurovision but still holding Benidorm Fest gave RTVE a big opportunity to prove me wrong and show that Benidorm Fest can survive, exist, and indeed thrive without Eurovision participation as a reward for winning it. Did they take my advice? Hell no. But was the show better for not taking it? Hell yes. I'm happy to admit I was wrong because that show will thrive outside of Eurovision. And if they do remain out of the main contest in 2027, here's to more Benidorm Fest shows regardless, Spain. Well done. Sweden. Don't crawl back to that industry. Kai's participation in Eurovision 2025 for Sweden, and more in particular their victory at Melodifestivalen, represented something much more than a Eurovision participation. It symbolised the end of Sweden's reliance on an incredibly dominant group of industry professionals. Sweden's songs over the past decade have been criticised for being safe, radio-friendly pop, scaled to a concert level with the production quality they have. Kai were absolutely not that. They were a fun entry, one that could even be considered a joke entry. It is a song about a sauna after all. So when they came fourth, despite being heavy favourites to win the main contest, I was worried that they'd go crawling back to the industry-dominated stuff that's done them so well over the years. Did they listen to my advice? I can say yes on this one, actually, because what we actually got at Melfest this year was a great mix of genres. Well-produced, well-staged, varying levels of vocal performance, but that's not SVT's fault. But it was very clearly much more enjoyable show for it. Was the show better or worse? Better. Melfest is now a show I can feel like I enjoy, and I can feel like everyone enjoys, rather than it being everyone wants to enjoy it, but can't take to it no matter how hard they try. Good job, Sweden. Ukraine. Don't change. Ukraine have enjoyed very good results in recent years, particularly in the televote, partially due to the war in Ukraine and their diaspora over Europe. They won the semi-final in 2025. They simply don't need to change a thing about their approach because it's working for them. Did they take that advice? Yes. Nothing changed in Vidbeer. Was the quality better or worse? Somehow I think it was better. The song quality overall this year has gone up in general across all countries. And Ukraine is no different to that. There's a lot to like in every Vidbeer entry this year, and they've done a fantastic job in difficult circumstances once again. So, that is it. My determination of whether or not the national final countries have taken my advice from last year, and whether they've improved on last year, or gone the other way. Overall, I think the picture is very positive going forward, and there's hope that a large amount of these countries can improve in the future. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.